What if I told you that a common, everyday ritual, something you do without thinking, could be hiding a silent, potentially deadly risk, especially for people over 70?
It sounds dramatic, but the information we've looked into suggests it's a real concern.
Exactly. We're diving deep today into some fascinating and honestly quite urgent information about shower safety.
Specifically about the timing of showers.
Right, our mission. To unpack why taking a shower at a specific time of day is being flagged by experts as significantly increasing danger. We want to get into the science behind it.
And give you clear, immediate steps you can take. For yourself, or maybe for a loved one.
We started this deep dive looking at sources like research papers, medical advisories, and some really poignant personal stories, too.
Yeah, those anecdotes really bring the data to life, don't they?
They really do. One story that just stuck with me was Stanley Peterson. He was 75, seemed perfectly healthy, very independent.
The picture of vitality as the source described him.
Exactly. But one morning, his daughter found him unconscious in his bathroom. And the experts reviewing his case, and others like it, pointed to his early morning shower.
A decision his family, and likely he himself, had no idea could be, well, fatal in his circumstances.
That's the stark reality driving this deep dive. This isn't just theoretical risk, it's happening. That's why we needed to understand this.
So where do we start? What is this dangerous time window the sources keep mentioning?
Okay, let's unpack that. What are we talking about specifically?
It's surprisingly specific, actually. The research we examined points quite consistently to the early morning hours. Think roughly between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m.
4 a.m. to 8 a.m. and the risk increase.
It's significant. The figure cited is an 80% increase in the risk of fatal accidents during a shower for those over 70 just by showering in that window.
80%, just based on the clock. That seems huge.
Yeah.
What is physiologically going on then?
It ties directly into our body's internal clock, our circadian rhythms. Research, including work from Harvard Medical School and experts like Dr. Richard Thompson mentioned in the sources, well, it shows our blood pressure regulation is naturally more, let's say, unstable during these hours.
Unstable how?
You get this natural dip in blood pressure overnight, and then quite a rapid surge as you wake up and become active. It's a normal process.
Okay.
But if you combine that natural morning surge with something that puts even a mild stress on your cardiovascular system, like standing up quickly, the heat and steam of a shower.
Ah, okay. So the body's already in flux, and the shower adds another stressor.
Precisely. It creates this window of vulnerability, especially for older adults whose systems might not adapt as quickly.
Is there an example of this?
Yes. The sources mentioned Doris Williams. She was 72, a retired teacher, always showered around 6 a.m.
Right in that window.
Exactly. One morning, she felt this sudden, really severe dizziness in the shower. She fell, fractured her hip, ended up in the hospital for quite a while. And her doctors, looking back, identified the timing of her shower, right during that morning blood pressure surge, as a major contributing factor to the dizziness and the fall.
Wow. Okay, so let's get practical. If you or someone you care about is showering between 4 and 8 a.m., what's the absolute first, most critical action step from the sources?
It's really straightforward, but the sources present it as vital. Change the time.
Just don't shower then.
Essentially, yes. Shift the shower time to mid-morning. They suggest between, say, 10 a.m. and noon. That's when your cardiovascular system is generally much more stable past that morning surge.
And they frame this as essential, not just a nice idea.
Very much so. For people over 70, it's presented as a key safety measure to avoid adding that shower stress during the body's most vulnerable time of day.
Okay, that makes sense regarding blood pressure. But the sources also brought up body temperature regulation. How does that fit in? How might our bodies, betray us temperature-wise as we age, especially in the morning shower?
That's another really interesting layer. Research highlighted in places like the American Journal of Geriatric Medicine shows that after around age 70, our ability to regulate our core body temperature becomes less efficient.
We just don't adapt to heat or cold as well.
Exactly. We don't adjust to rapid temperature changes as quickly or effectively. And think about the morning.
Right, you mentioned the blood pressure dip. Does temperature dip too?
Yes, your core body temperature is naturally at its lowest point in those early morning hours. So, as Dr. Amanda Chen, a specialist mentioned in the material, warns, exposing yourself to hot water then is particularly risky.
Why? Because the difference is greater.
Precisely. Your body is at its coolest, least prepared state, and then suddenly you hit it with hot water. It has to work much harder to adjust, putting extra strain on the cardiovascular system, which, remember, is already dealing with that morning blood pressure fluctuation.
That sounds like a recipe for trouble.
It can be. There was the anecdote about Albert Reynolds, 83 years old. He liked his early morning showers, and apparently quite hot ones. Yeah. One morning, he suffered a near-fatal cardiac event, an arrhythmia, right there in the shower. His cardiologist later explained that the combination, the timing plus the temperature shock, was the direct trigger. And it was preventable.
So, building on that, what's the immediate action related to temperature?
Two key things come directly from the sources. First, lower the water temperature. Forget the scalding hot showers.
Right.
Aim for lukewarm. They specify around 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Lukewarm, not hot. Got it. And second?
Install an anti-scald device on the shower faucet or mixer valve. The sources point out these are inexpensive, maybe around $20.
And what do they do?
They prevent those sudden, dangerous spikes in water temperature that can happen if someone flushes a toilet elsewhere, for example. Spikes that an older body might not react to or tolerate well.
Okay, cheap and potentially life-saving. Makes sense. Now, this is starting to feel like a combination of factors. Let's talk about medication. Could something as simple as taking your daily pills turn that morning shower into a risk?
Absolutely. This was a major warning flag raised in the sources, referencing cardiologists, including those from the Mayo Clinic. They talk about a dangerous double drop effect.
A double drop. Okay, explain that.
So Dr. Michael Ramirez, a geriatric cardiologist, mentioned, lays it out. Many seniors take blood pressure medication first thing upon waking.
Makes sense. Get it done.
Right. But these medications are designed to reach their peak effect, their maximum blood pressure lowering power, often within a few hours right in those early morning hours.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now combine that medication-induced drop with the natural drop in blood pressure that can happen when you stand up and step into a warm shower.
You get two things lowering blood pressure at once.
Precisely, a double drop. This can reduce blood flow to the brain significantly, potentially causing dizziness, lightheadedness, or even fainting.
And fainting in a shower is incredibly dangerous.
Extremely. We saw the example of Patricia Sullivan, 76. She kept getting dizzy spells during her 7 a.m. shower. Never made the connection.
What was she taking?
Lisinopril, a common blood pressure med, right before her shower. Her doctor finally explained the double drop. The fix was simple for her.
Let me guess, change the timing.
Exactly. She moved her shower to mid-morning, ensuring it was at least 3 hours after taking her medication. The dizzy spells stopped completely.
That's a powerful illustration. So for anyone listening who's on blood pressure meds, this raises a critical question, doesn't it? Are you creating this dangerous overlap?
It's crucial to check. And the action step from the sources is very direct and urgent. Talk to your doctor today. Ask specifically about the timing of your medication relative to your shower.
Is there a specific guideline mentioned?
Yes. Based on the risk beta, the explicit advice was never shower within 2 hours of taking blood pressure medication. Give your body time to adjust to the medication first.
Maybe making a little chart, medication time here, shower time here.
That's a great practical idea. Anything to make that timing conscious and safe.
Okay, so we've got internal body clocks, temperature issues, medication interactions. What about the bathroom itself? Is the physical environment more dangerous at certain times? We know bathrooms are risky anyway.
They are the riskiest room, statistically. But yes, time of day amplifies certain dangers, primarily related to vision.
Vision? How so?
Studies from the National Institute on Aging, cited in the material, show that our perceptual abilities in low light can decrease dramatically as we age by as much as 60% for folks over 70.
60% worse vision just because it's dim.
Essentially, yes. Our ability to see clearly, and especially to distinguish contrast, gets much worse in dim light. Think about seeing water on a light-colored tile floor.
Harder to spot in the pre-dawn gloom.
Exactly. Dr. Sarah Johnson, a geriatric ophthalmologist, stresses this point. The bathroom is already full of potential hazards, wet floors, slippery tubs. Before sunrise, when your contrast sensitivity is naturally at its lowest, navigating those hazards becomes exponentially harder and riskier.
Is there a story illustrating this?
Gregory Harrison, 81, retired postal worker. He always showered before dawn, dim bathroom light.
Didn't see something.
Didn't see a puddle of water on the floor. Slipped, fell, fractured his hip, a life-altering injury. He later told his family, quite sadly, that if he just waited until it was daylight, he would have seen the water. The fall likely wouldn't have happened.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking. So preventable. What are the immediate practical fixes for this lighting issue?
Thankfully, the fixes are pretty simple and inexpensive. First, motion-activated nightlights. Put them in the bathroom itself and along the path to the bathroom.
So you always have enough light, even if you're just shuffling in there half awake.
Right. Second, non-slip mats are crucial, but choose ones with bright, contrasting colors, something that really stands out visually against your floor, even in dimmer light.
Good point. Not just any mat.
Make it highly visible. The sources emphasize doing this now, not putting it off. The cost is tiny compared to the potential cost of a fall.
We've talked about risks during the shower, but what about even before you step in? Could you wake up already sort of primed for a fall?
That's a really important point highlighted by Johns Hopkins geriatric specialists in the sources. Dehydration. Waking up significantly dehydrated is common in older adults.
And that increases fall risk.
Dramatically.
Right.
They estimate it can increase fall risk during activities like showering by up to 70%.
70%, just from not having enough water. How does that work?
Dr. William Parker, a researcher cited, explains the mechanism. Overnight, you naturally lose fluids through breathing and perspiration. You wake up somewhat dehydrated.
Okay.
Then, you stand up and get into a warm shower. That combination, the dehydration meaning lower blood volume, plus the heat causing blood vessels to dilate and blood to pool in your legs, it worsens orthostatic hypotension.
That's the dizziness when you stand up quickly.
Exactly. Less blood volume means less blood getting efficiently to your brain when you stand or are standing in the heat. Result: dizziness, lightheadedness, increased risk of fainting and falling. And it's worse in the morning because that's when you're likely most dehydrated from the overnight period.
Makes sense. Any examples?
Leonard Sullivan, 77, felt fine generally but kept getting dizzy spells, specifically during his morning showers. His geriatrician diagnosed it as dehydration-related orthostatic hypotension.
And the fix.
Incredibly simple. He started drinking a full glass of water about 15 minutes before getting in the shower.
And
Dizzy is gone. Completely. He called it a simple solution to what could have been a deadly problem.
wow. Okay, so the non-negotiable routine adjustment based on that finding.
Drink water first. Make it a rule.
Yeah.
A full glass of water, maybe 8 ounces, about 15 minutes before you shower. Every single time.
Doesn't matter what time of day you shower.
Doesn't matter. Hydrate first. The sources even suggested keeping a water bottle right there in the bathroom as a visual reminder. Make it part of the ritual.
Let's shift gears slightly and consider the worst-case scenario. A fall happens. If it occurs during that risky 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. window, what did the source say about the chances of getting help quickly?
This was a really sobering statistic. Emergency medicine reports cited indicate that if a senior falls during an early morning shower, they are 40% less likely to be found in time for life-saving intervention.
40% less likely to be found in time. That's terrifying.
It really underscores the danger. Dr. Emily Rodriguez, an ER physician talks about the survival golden hour, that critical window after a serious fall or event where getting help fast makes the biggest difference.
And in the early morning?
People are often alone. The rest of the household might be asleep. Routine check-ins from family or neighbors haven't started yet, so someone could fall at 5 a.m. and not be discovered for hours.
Leading to complications.
Absolutely. Lying there injured, possibly wet, and getting cold. Hypothermia becomes a real risk. Plus, the delay in getting treatment for the injury itself, like a head injury or fracture, drastically worsens outcomes.
Was there an example for this?
Beatrice Harper, 73, a widow living alone. She fell during her 5 a.m. shower. Wasn't found for nearly 4 hours.
Oh my goodness.
Her doctors told her quite plainly that if the fall had happened midday, she likely would have been found much sooner. Neighbors would have heard something, or family might have called. The delay directly contributed to the severity of her condition, including significant hypothermia.
What did she change?
She now showers mid-morning and has arranged for regular morning check-in calls with family.
That really highlights the risks starkly. It makes you ask that tough question. If you or someone you know lives alone and fell right now, how long would it take for someone to know?
It's a crucial question to ask, honestly.
So what are the recommended actions to mitigate this specific risk?
2 immediate recommendations from the sources. First, and this was emphasized strongly, install a waterproof emergency call button right in the shower area, something you can press even if you're on the floor.
Non-negotiable safety tech.
Absolutely. Yeah. Second, if for some unavoidable reason you must shower early, set up a specific, reliable check-in system, a call or text from family or a neighbor scheduled for right around that shower time.
Peace of mind, but also potentially life-saving.
Exactly. It dramatically shortens that potential discovery delay time.
Okay, we've covered the body's internal clock, temperature, medication, the physical environment, dehydration, emergency response. Is there anything else? What about our brain function itself in the morning?
Yes, that's the final piece of the puzzle discussed in the sources. Cognitive function. Research from Stanford University neurologists indicates that for seniors, cognitive function is typically at its lowest ebb between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m.
Lowest ebb, meaning?
Things like reaction time can be slowed significantly.
Yeah.
The figure mentioned was by up to 30%. Decision-making speed, alertness, processing information. It's all generally a bit sluggish in those first few hours after waking for older adults.
30% slower reactions. How does that specifically impact shower safety?
Well, think about it. Dr. Jonathan Miller, a neurologist cited who studies this, explains that showering isn't entirely passive. You need to be reasonably alert.
To adjust water temperature, notice if the floor feels slippery.
Exactly. React if you start to lose balance. Make quick decisions. If your cognitive processing and reaction times are impaired, even slightly, your ability to navigate those potential hazards safely is compromised. You might not notice the water getting too hot fast enough, or you might not catch yourself quickly if you slip.
That makes sense. Was there an example of this cognitive factor?
Franklin Wilson, 79, described as normally very sharp mentally. But one morning, during his usual 6 a.m. shower,
His brain wasn't fully online yet.
that's how he described it. He simply failed to notice the shower water becoming scalding hot until it was too late. He suffered severe burns requiring hospitalization. He felt his brain just wasn't processing things properly that early.
Another preventable injury. So the simple safety plan related to cognitive function.
It really reinforces the advice we've already discussed. Timing is key. Schedule your shower for that 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. window when cognitive function is generally at its daily peak.
Be sharper when you're doing something potentially risky.
Precisely. The sources also suggested using a simple shower timer with an alarm. It helps limit your exposure time, especially if alertness might be lower, and provides a clear cue to wrap things up.
So change the routine to align with when your brain is working best.
That's the core idea. It's about ensuring both your body and your mind are ready for the task.
Okay, wow. This deep dive has definitely painted a surprisingly complex picture of something seemingly simple. We've clearly seen how showering between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m., specifically after age 70, isn't just inconvenient, it significantly increases risk.
It's really clear it's not just one isolated thing, it's this convergence, right? During that specific time window, you have the less stable blood pressure,
The poor body temperature regulation,
potential clashes with medication timing,
reduced vision in the typical dim light of early morning,
waking up potentially dehydrated, which primes you for a fall.
the much higher risk of delayed emergency response if something does happen.
And finally, even your own cognitive function and reaction times working against you, it all stacks up in those early hours.
But the power in understanding all this is knowing you can take action. We've identified several immediate, concrete steps right from the source material.
Exactly. And they're mostly quite achievable. Shifting the shower time is the big one.
Then managing the water temperature, getting an anti-scald device,
Talking to your doctor about medication timing.
improving bathroom lighting, and using high-contrast, non-slip mats.
That simple habit of hydrating before you get in.
Having an emergency call button or check-in system in place.
And just being mindful of scheduling your shower when you feel most alert, generally between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
This deep dive really shows that staying safe and independent as you age isn't necessarily about stopping your routines, is it? It's about being smarter, adjusting them based on this kind of critical data-driven insight.
It empowers you to make informed choices. The science we've looked at makes the risks of that early morning window pretty undeniable.
So you listening now have this crucial knowledge, maybe about a risk you hadn't considered. Think about the steps you can take for yourself. Or, perhaps just as importantly, share this information with a parent, a grandparent, a friend, someone you care about who might be unknowingly putting themselves at risk every morning.
It's about awareness leading to safer habits.
It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it? The source material focused on this one routine, showering, and how timing changes everything. It leaves me wondering, what other seemingly harmless daily habits might have hidden risks we're not aware of, simply because of when or how we do them?
That's a great question. Applying that lens of timing and circumstance to other routines.
Yeah.
Definitely food for thought.
Something to consider as you go about your day.